3030 Texas Church Road, south of Clinton. They'll receive a $200 gift certificate good at Lincoln Printers and Sign Designs for being our WHOW WEZC Lincoln Printers Business of the Month. Nominate a business you'd like featured by emailing us at whow@randyradio.com.
Congratulations to this local business for all they do for the community. And don't forget, for envelopes, wedding invitations, signs, banner wraps, and more, go to LincolnPrintersInc.com.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. Brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest on the Zoom today, Mrs. Mary Vogt, is the superintendent of Bement Schools. Mrs. Vogt, how are you today?
Good morning, Seth. I'm great. Thanks. How are you?
Doing well. When does Bement go on spring break?
We typically take the Thursday and Friday before Easter off and the Monday after Easter off. And then we do the Wednesday leading up to that is a noon dismissal for students, and we do school improvement planning for staff. So it's been that way for quite some time. I remember, being up the road and we'd have our spring break and hearing that Bement didn't, but then at the end of the year, as we were still going and Bement was out like a solid 2 weeks before we were, I was jealous at that point. And so now living it, I wasn't sure, for 27 years in education, I had a spring break, to then make that transition to have, 5 days off. It's really been pretty easy, Seth.
Really? So you prefer the way you have it now than the way you had it?
I do. And part of the reason for that is because, you're aware, superintendents talk to you about it. During the summer, there are so many projects and maintenance items to try to get done before school starts again in the fall. By being out those couple of weeks before most of the surrounding school districts, we're able to do things like, we have our gym floors resurfaced every year. Well, we can schedule that in May, whereas other schools can't schedule till June. So some of those bigger projects that we do every year, we have a couple week head start on getting those started and done.
Gotcha. Interesting. All right. So spring break isn't for another couple of weeks then for y'all.
You are right.
All right. Well,
honestly, I haven't flipped my calendar to April yet, so it's really not even on my radar.
Yeah. Fair enough. That is fair enough for sure. Very good. Well, Mrs. Vogt, let's dive into a conversation that seems to be gaining a lot of traction. You talk about my conversation with your peers, and this is a conversation that is gaining a lot of traction with the folks that come on the show from various school districts, and it's artificial intelligence and education and the overlap of those two things. I know this is, like I said, kind of a growing thing. Speak to this from your perspective, what it looks like in Bement schools, how artificial intelligence impacts education.
Absolutely. So we have a few staff members who have either taken classes or gone to workshops on how to appropriately use AI in the classroom setting. And I think with anything, Seth, you remember when email first became a big thing, Google first became a big thing. So now it's AI. So you need to treat it as a tool and know when the information is accurate and when the information isn't accurate. I relate it back to in my former life, I was a middle school math teacher for 8 years, and trying to teach students how to do math operations by hand, but then also teaching them how to use a calculator, but making sure they understood the calculator will only produce what the user gives it. And so if you're giving it the wrong information, you have to know enough to understand, hey, that's wrong. I need to go back and do it. So, that level of human intelligence along with it, because I thought it was pretty funny. Our middle school math teacher gave a great example where, she does use AI to generate random questions to give students additional practice. It will generate worksheets. But then she did have a student who was trying to use AI to help answer a question. And what AI did was say, create your own mathematical equation now that fits this situation. And so the response AI gave was something along the lines of there are multiple equations that would fit this situation. And so that's what the student wrote for their answer. There are multiple equations that would fit this situation.
Got to know
So,
those equations, though, right?
right. And so, that's a prime example of then the teacher taking that opportunity to say, okay, great. You were trying to use your resources, but look at the question. You need an equation, just that there are multiple equations available.
Sure.
So, I feel like our teachers here really across the board understand this is a tool. It's not a be all end all. Common theme, the teachers who use it. For example, one of our science teachers has used it to develop labs. So, they're able to punch in, here's the lab idea, here are the key dependent variables and what they want the students to learn, and then get that initial draft. But that teacher then goes and edits to make sure that it's appropriate for her students and it actually does what she wants it to do. So that's where I feel like the staff has done a good job of being smart about it, not just, okay, this is what you're saying to do, and so that's what I'm going to do, which I appreciate. Now, on the flip side, some of our high school students, they have teachers who are helping teach them how to use AI for things like resume building. And so teaching, again, using AI as a tool that you let it know that you want to create a resume. Here are the key things that you want included in your resume. And then once AI generates that idea, the structure, then the student going in and making sure that it's appropriate. So
Yeah.
I think that's, again, the common theme is using it as a tool and needing to go in and make sure that it's appropriate.
Yeah. Now, so some of your peers have talked about using AI. You talked about using it as a tool, to say, hey, like I have a student struggling in this area of the curriculum. What are some ways we can help them understand this? Has it helped your teachers enhance their ability to reach students and teach students?
Yes, absolutely. Because some of those tried and true lessons that teachers have done, if there's somebody who isn't quite working on grade level, they're able to put in what they have done and say, now, to modify this for second grade level, if it's a fourth grade class, for example. And then AI is able to make those modifications. So yes, it is helpful in that way. Personally, I feel like I do a pretty decent job communicating, but I have started using AI once, I have information that I want to send out to families. I'll type up what I typically would type up, and then I copy and paste it and put it into AI just to have it check and see, is there something else I could have said, or is there a way I could have worded it differently? But I always make sure it's still my voice. I'm not going to use something that sounds like I'm, a professor at Oxford or something
An
like
Autobot,
that.
yeah. So okay, to that end, now I'm curious, how do you do that? How do you make it still your voice, and but you ran it through AI? Okay, you could have said this a little more clearly. How do you balance that?
Again, it's that personal judgment and the ability to know, who I am and the message that I want to have come across. Sometimes there are formatting suggestions that I think, well, no, I'm not going to bold print and bullet point everything from this. I just want to take a couple of those key points. And so just making sure I read through it again, double check, have somebody else take a look at it, make sure that it sounds appropriate. Now, as superintendents, we have been getting an extraordinary number of FOIA requests.
For what?
Anything and everything. Most recently, there is one today. I got the 7th one in a week from this anonymous email asking for financial information. Like the first one was from 2000, 2004, 2014. Now it's like 2003, 2013, 2023. So everyone requests 3 different years of financial information. And what's most frustrating about this is all of the information that they're asking for is on the ISBE website because school districts have to submit it every year. So it's right there for them. But what we typically do first is, as these unusual requests come, we'll ask each other, hey, is anyone else getting these requests? And then what we try to figure out is this a bot? Is it being auto-generated, or is there actually a person wanting all of this information that's available online? So,
I feel like with those things, with FOIA requests now, I feel like you're going to have to provide, like, I'm this person looking for this information, like, because of what you're talking about. Yeah.
And it would be nice. But again, so along with that layer of all checking with each other and what everyone is receiving, and this particular one, and I have connections from the southernmost tip of the state to the northernmost part of the state, and this is statewide. Some are pretty regional, but these, the 7th one in a week, it's just really too suspicious to think that it's an actual person.
Yeah, for sure. With AI, again, our guest on the phone today, Mrs. Mary Vogt, Superintendent of Bement Schools. To wrap us up, you talked about how it can enhance curriculum. Kids are so good with technology, right? And so I'm curious, how do you, you assign a kid a semester paper, or a paper at the end of a unit on something, right? And they say, you say, okay, write a 5-page paper on whatever. How do you keep the kids from, just going to AI and saying, write me a 5-page paper about this subject, with the bullet points. How is it making teaching more challenging in that regard?
And, Seth, I have a twofold answer to that. One, I feel like any student who would do that and turn that work in, the teachers already know that student. Like I said, when I use AI, I try to make sure it still sounds like my voice. So the teacher knows what those individual student voices sound like in their writing. And oftentimes the student, their little brains just aren't developed enough to think, oh, I probably should take a look at this and make sure that it sounds like me. They'll just turn it in. So along with the teacher knowing the student, knowing, hey, this really wasn't your original work, but there are also AI detectors. And so oftentimes we have had a couple of situations where it does appear that the student did use AI. And so then the teacher's able to take that information and run it through an AI detector. And those are pretty cool because it will tell you, 90% sure this is AI, or here are the parts that are AI. So I played around with those sometimes and take things that I have actually written and just put in to say, okay, what will the AI detector do to this? And sometimes my writing, it appears to be AI generated, but it was really just me.
Hey, that's a compliment sometimes.
Right.
Or is it a
sometimes.
compliment? I don't know. Anyways, very good, Mrs. Vogt. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Good conversation there. I'll tell you what, let's take a break and come back with some more if that's okay. By the way, I should ask, did I miss anything in that conversation? Is there anything about AI we didn't go over or didn't cover that you think is worth putting out there?
One thing, we have a new business teacher this year, and she's doing a stock market simulation, and she was talking about using AI to generate lesson plans. So, because of stock market simulation, AI is going to be able to pull current recent data to use a textbook from 10 years ago isn't necessarily appropriate. So that's again where I appreciate our teachers understand how to use it as a tool to make sure that they're providing some of the supplemental material in their classrooms.
Sounds great. Good stuff. Well, Mrs. Vogt, where do folks go to keep up with all things Bement Schools?
www.bement.k12.il.us.
Mrs. Mary Vogt is the superintendent of Bement Schools, my guest on the Zoom. More to come with Mrs. Vogt on the morning show.
WHOW.
Let's check the opening numbers now at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Friday morning. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network. A weaker start with corn, beans, and Chicago wheat all in the red. May corn opening 443 down 7. July corn down 6 3/4, 451 1/4. New crop December 438 3/4, down a nickel. May beans starting the day 10.10 1/4 down 6 1/2. July beans down 5 3/4, 10.24 3/4. New crop November 10.16 1/4, down 4 1/4. May Chicago wheat opening 521 down 11. July wheat down 10 3/4, 536 1/2. September wheat 553 1/4, down 11. May bean meal 290.80, that's down 370, and May bean oil 44.42, up 15 cents. Opening numbers on this Friday morning. Jim Taylor on the RFD Radio Network.
Good morning. I'm Helen McAlassie, and I'm running for mayor of Clinton. Improvement of the city's infrastructure is one of my priorities as mayor. This includes proactive and strategic planning. The design and construction of a new water tower, public safety facility, and city hall will ensure vital services for our community are supported and there when we need them. They're an investment in our future. Clinton is a great city, and when we all work together, we can move Clinton forward together.
Paid for by Michelasi for Mayor.
SIU Family Medicine wants the best health for you and your family. Be a champion. Protect your loved ones. The SIU Center for Family Medicine of Lincoln is accepting new patients. Click their icon at DeWittDailyNews.com to schedule your appointment.
Hi, I'm Brett with Central Cremation Center, and we proudly serve all of Central Illinois. We offer the most affordable and convenient arrangements in the area with plans starting at just $795. Many of our plans are available by clicking our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks again for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. Excuse me. The morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. Brought to you today by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Mrs. Mary Vogt is the superintendent of Bement Schools. My guest on the Zoom call, and Mrs. Vogt, with spring break still a little bit of ways away, what's been kind of keeping your time busy? What's kept you occupied there in Bement Schools lately?
Oh, a little of this, little of that. We're in the process of finalizing our summer work plans. So I've been meeting with the maintenance staff and scheduling some of those outside contractors who need to come in. Seth, I was just having this conversation with somebody yesterday that being the superintendent of a small school district, I still have 7 board members. I still have the same reports to complete. I have the same responsibilities, but I don't have a team of people to help with that. I think you and I have talked about that. So, some of the superintendents who have what they call the cabinet, their cabinet of people who are on their team, they wouldn't be talking directly to contractors and getting some of this work scheduled. So, it's different. But yeah, we are well into our summer work plans. We have our state testing starting next week. So making sure that all of the technology is available and putting everything into place that our students need in order to successfully complete those. And, we're still here in my unit office. We're still in a transition phase where I have 2 new people. And we're doing payroll in-house, and that had not been done before January of this year. So, we're rolling right along every day. It feels like we're just clicking even more and being more comfortable working with each other and getting things accomplished.
Sure. Now, so when it comes to just kind of what's been occupying your time, I don't know with legislative new session coming up. Is there much out of Springfield, whether you're keeping an eye on, or let's say State Board of Education or School Superintendents Association, those sorts of things? Are they keeping an eye on anything out of Springfield that's caught your eye or ear recently?
One of the things that will impact us is the potential for, statewide cell phone bans in schools, because right now, pre-K through 8, our students are not allowed to have cell phones out or on. That's just the rural high school, they are allowed to have their phones out during passing period and at lunchtime. I would say 90%, if not even 100% of my high school teachers all have a spot in their classroom where the students come in, they put their phone in that spot. That's just how it is, because there's not a need for them to be on their phone during class time. So if the cell phone ban goes through, that's not something that I feel like we will particularly have a challenge with, simply because most of our students don't have them out at all anyway. But it'll just be one more thing to manage, and just some of the things that I don't feel like legislators understand the full impact when, then it becomes a discipline issue and gatekeeping, and just one more thing to keep track of.
So that's something you'd rather just take care of in-house rather than have the state legislate it?
Yes. But if they say cell phones are banned, then that makes it really easy for us to say, yeah, this is state law. Another thing we're keeping an eye on is there are legislators who are pushing for students to be able to play travel sports at the same time as sports, school sports. IHSA sports are in session right now. You can't do both at the same time. And, I feel like that's concerning that legislators would override something that IHSA has managed for years. Because honestly, Seth, in a school district our size, we co-op sports with Cerro Gordo. Even with having the two districts co-opt, we still struggle to have full teams, especially like in football. We struggle to have 30 kids on the football field between our two districts. And so, basketball, softball, baseball, if students were allowed to do the travel sport at the same time as the school sport, I think we're going to end up losing students for the school sport. I think they will do just the travel.
When the state has run out of things they can legislate, by God, they're going to find something to legislate. Oh my gosh. Seriously, the absurdity. Yeah, that's why, and it's, I don't know of travel sports that operate. I mean, I'm sure there are, because travel sports is an unending endeavor, but that's just, I don't know. That's just wild. Mrs. Vogt, I've run out of time with you. With that said, how do folks learn about all things Bement schools?
www.bement.k12.il.us.
Very good. Mrs. Mary Vogt, Superintendent of Bement Schools, my guest on the Zoom today. The morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin insurance agent in Clinton. Network news comes your way next.